Hello, welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is Girls, Chants, Music, playing at the Vineyard Theatre, off-Broadway. But before I get into this fascinating new play, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help me grow this channel, and it helps me get press tickets to see shows like this one. All right, let's get into it. What did I know going into this show? Not much. I knew the name Eisa Davis, but other than that, I didn't know anything about it. Now, the last show I saw at the Vineyard Theatre was 300 Paintings, and I absolutely loved it. The problem was I caught it at the very end of their run, so my rave review didn't reach that many people. So this time around, I wanted to get in early. I was anticipating another amazing show from the Vineyard, and I wanted to tell you all about it while you could still grab a ticket. So where did this show come from? Girls, Chants, Music was written by Eisa Davis, a playwright, musician, and actress who was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize for her play Bull Rusher. She's also collaborated with Lin-Manuel Miranda on the Warriors concept album. This play is deeply personal. Davis grew up in San Francisco East Bay and spent 8 summers at the Young Musicians Program, a music education initiative for low-income youth that has since become the Young Musicians Choral Orchestra. That program is essentially the setting for this play. So she's writing about something that she knows very well. This show was commissioned back in 2018 by American Conservatory Theatre in San Francisco, one of the very first commissions made by ACT's artistic director Pam McKinnon, who also directs this production. McKinnon is a Tony Award winner, by the way, and this is actually the last show she'll direct as ACT's artistic director before stepping down. The world premiere ran at ACT's Strand Theatre in San Francisco earlier this spring, and now it has moved to the Vineyard Theatre here in New York for its off-Broadway debut. It's running through June 21st. So what is Girls, Chants, Music about? The official description puts it this way. During an unforgettable summer at a girls' music program in Berkeley, California, 4 teenagers school each other in identity and intimacy, forging connections through passionate explorations of sound. As the world around them trums with disaster, their relationships crack under the weight of the unexpected and demand that they improvise new ways to being themselves. That's the official version. Here's my version. It's going to be longer. So basically, we are following 4 girls. I put them in their early to mid-teens who are attending a competitive summer music program. This is a program for talented kids from families who are underserved or not super wealthy. There's Fax, an ambitious, operatically trained vocalist who is laser focused and hardworking, but can come across as intense and controlling. There's Margot, the drummer, who is guarded and reserved, and who believes that improvisation is the highest form of musical expression. And then there's Ryle, the pianist, who is astonishingly talented when she's sober, which is not always. And then rounding this out, we've got Clementine, a woodwind and multi-instrumentalist who is sunny and observational and kind of floats through the emotional storms of the other 3. The show really focuses on 3 of them, Margot, Fax, and Ryle. Margot is wrestling with suicidal thoughts. Fax is dealing with an eating disorder, and Ryle really just loves to smoke pot. Each of them is struggling. Margot is also a lesbian who develops feelings for Fax, and Fax, for her part, just wants to collaborate with the best musician available, which happens to be Margot. There's a central creative conflict between the 2 of them. Margot is all about improvisation, while Fax likes to do things exactly as written. Through the course of the play, Fax begins to open herself up to something looser, something more spontaneous, and develops this relationship with Margot along the way. The play also touches on, and this is where it starts to get a lot, eating disorders, suicide, drug use, teenage sexuality, homelessness, sperm donors, parental relationships, earthquakes. It's covering a lot of ground. And like that ground in California, it can be a bit shaky. See what I did there? All right, let me talk about where the show works and where it doesn't, for me at least. Let's start with the lighting, because I thought the lighting was genuinely beautiful. The opening of the show, before the play even begins, has these strips of light falling on each instrument on stage. It felt almost like heavenly, like some angelic force was shining down on these instruments in these beautifully wood-paneled practice rooms. It was really a lovely image. And then about halfway through the play, there's this improvisational jam session where the lights on the practice room set pieces shift into all these gorgeous colors. Visually, it was the highlight of the show for me. And the jam session itself was also the most fun I had watching this play. You can feel the energy in the room shift. Now, whether this jam session is fully improvised or a written piece designed to feel like improvisation, I think it's the latter, but either way, I feel like it works. That's when the show really felt like it was firing on all cylinders. And I have to call out the actors playing Margot, Naomi Lata. They were the stand-up for me. There's an androgyny and a masculine energy to the way they played this character that I found completely fascinating. And everything they said, I believed. They have an effortlessness about them, and it felt completely real. I'll also say this. The ideas in this play are genuinely interesting. The tension between improvisation and following what's on the page, the question of what it costs to become an extraordinary musician, the way music allows these girls to communicate things that they can't say in words, that's rich, compelling material. So what didn't work for me? Here's my main issue with the show, and I don't think I'm alone in this. It's just trying to do too much. There are so many plot points and themes being juggled that I kept kind of losing the most important thread. We've got eating disorders, suicide, homelessness, drug and alcohol abuse, sexual identity, lesbianism, finding your sperm donor father, earthquakes. It started to feel like I was watching several different plays all at once, and I kept asking myself, what is the main idea here? What are we actually building towards? And I never quite got a satisfactory answer. The show has so many things it wants to say that none of them really get the space that they deserve. Critics who caught the world premiere in San Francisco felt the same pull. The consensus was that the play has genuine emotional intelligence and authentic characters, but the first half in particular tends to meander, and that some of its more thematic moments, especially around the improvisation versus structure debate, tip into didactic territory. Margot's sustained mission to convert facts to her philosophy of jazz improvisation is compelling at first, but it gets tiresome when she keeps returning to it at the expense of the bigger, more urgent things happening in these girls' lives. And that's really my core frustration. There are genuinely big things in this story that get shortchanged. We find out that one of these girls is homeless. I assume she's living on the street after a falling out with her father. And that's extraordinary dramatic material, but the play doesn't really linger there. It moves on to these smaller interpersonal tensions. And I found myself wishing the show would really focus on these more earth-shattering things that are happening in these girls' lives. There's also this audience participation moment at the top of the show. So before the show begins, the audience can stick stickers on corresponding piano notes. There's 12 of them. And then at the beginning of the show, the actresses have to learn that sequence. But it felt like a gimmick that didn't pay off. It happens, and it's kind of interesting for a moment, but then it's basically dropped. It comes back once or twice, but it doesn't really address this fundamental tension between improvisation and structure. And I wanted this device to actually illuminate something, and it didn't. So the pacing also compounds everything. The show runs about 100 minutes, but it felt longer. And I think that's a structural issue more than anything else. And also a directorial issue. When a play is trying to cover this much ground and it hasn't quite figured out its spine, the audience feels adrift. Also, the timing of the scenes, there was a lot of space between things, a lot of walking around set pieces to then establish that they were in a new space. There's a real play buried here, a smart, personal one, but I think it's still searching for its shape. So, was I bored? Yeah, I was pretty bored during this play. The slow pacing made it feel much longer than 100 minutes, and a lot of what I was watching just felt too small. I know these are teenage girls, and I know their concerns are going to be proportionally teenage. She shared my music with someone else. She only likes you because you're talented, not because of who you are as a person. You know, I get that. I just wasn't emotionally invested in those dynamics. I was much more invested in the things that were going on in their home lives. And here's the thing that frustrated me the most. There are genuinely big things happening in this story that I desperately wanted to explore. I found out that one of the girls is homeless after a fight with her father. That's huge. That's the kind of thing I want the play to dig into. What is her relationship with her father like? How did things get so bad? What does she do with that? But the show moves on and goes back to smaller interpersonal squabbles. All the most interesting plot points felt underdeveloped. Now, I should be the target audience for the show. I love music. I love the improvisation versus the on-the-page debate. I love the idea of young people discovering what music means to them. I'm still discovering that. And when the show started, when it opened with the character contemplating suicide framed so strikingly, I was hooked. And then the narrative just started to meander, and I stopped knowing where we were going, and I got bored. Was I confused? Yes, there's a lot of plot coming at you from a lot of different directions. The location shifts constantly from the cafeteria to a park to the apartment, and the storylines keep multiplying. And by the time I was keeping track of the eating disorder and the suicidal ideation and the homelessness and the sperm donor and the relationship drama, my brain was just full. I couldn't hold it all and feel it simultaneously. The show asks a lot from its audience in terms of tracking, and it doesn't always give you enough to really hold on to. So let me wrap this up. Here's where I land. Girls, Chance, Music has the bones of a really interesting play. Eisa Davis is a writer with a genuine voice and a deep personal connection to this world. There are beautiful moments in here. I love the lighting, the jam session, a few remarkable performances, and the central ideas about music and identity and improvisation are worth exploring. But right now in this production, it's trying to do too many things all at once. It's spread too thin. It feels like it's still finding its focus, and in the theater, that's something an audience feels acutely. That said, should you go check this out? I think if any of the following describes you, the answer is yes. If you're drawn to stories about young women discovering their identities through music, this is your show. If you love the idea of watching actors who are actually playing live instruments right in front of you, this is absolutely your show. And if you're someone who wants to support new, adventurous, form-pushing theater, work that is genuinely trying to do something unusual, then please go check this out at the Vineyard Theatre. Shows like this need audiences, especially early in their run, to find their footing. And fortunately, the ticket price is very reasonable for this show. Now, I got my tickets through the press office, and I sat midway back and a bit to the side, but honestly, it doesn't really matter where you sit. The Vineyard is a small, intimate theater, and any seat in this house gives you a good view of the stage. You're not gonna have a bad seat here. So, here's where you get your cheap tickets, because I know that's one of the reasons you like to watch my videos. Your best bet is the Rush ticket, $20 at the box office, 30 minutes before curtain, cash only. If you can work with that, that's a fantastic deal for an off-Broadway show. But if you want a little more certainty, check out the Good Neighbor program, which offers tickets at $35 and can be purchased online or by phone in advance. Either way, you're getting into the Vineyard Theatre and seeing a production for a fraction of what you'd pay to see something on Broadway. So go early, go cheap, and make up your own mind about Girls Chance Music. All right, thank you for watching. I'll see you at the next one. Bye.
Don't wanna drift away, wanna stay inside the play. Keep me engaged, keep me amused with what's in front of me. 'Cause I don't want